Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the CRKT Slacker. First off though, in the name of full disclosure, this guy was sent to me directly from CRKT Knives. They reached out, well actually I reached out to them, actually I talked to them at freaking Blade West. Said, hey, this is a nice knife, can I check one of these guys out? They said, sure, but nonetheless, they've seen my disclaimer that's available on my website. Tells them I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, might be junk. Nevertheless, they sent it along. We do have to assume, though, this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I am doing my best not to let that fact affect my review in any way, shape, or form. So, there you go. Next thing, let's do some size comparison real quick. Here it is against the Spyderco Delica, as always. The CRKT. No, this is an Ontario Rat number 2 model, and then here it is against the Spyderco PM2. Then actually, one other relevant comparison is actually a CRKT. This is the CRKT Homefront. This is the 25th anniversary edition, special edition limited thing, but nevertheless, this is another knife featuring the field strip technology, and actually it's another knife designed by the same designer. This is the Cricut Ken Onion Slacker. This is the Ken Onion Homefront. So both of these guys have onions involved in the process. So there we go. That is there's your size comparison. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. This very interesting little knife right here. So to start with, this is a very easy to carry knife. It is a very lightweight knife as well. Here, let me pull my scale up on the stage here. What we can see here is coming in here at 2.6 ounces for, where is my ruler? For a little bit over about 3¼ inches on this guy. So it is a very easy to carry knife, partly because it has a nice deep carry clip in here, but partly because it is light, it is nicely sized. I mean, in terms of size, we're looking at something very similar to the Spyderco Delica in terms of its overall size, maybe a little bit thicker in places, but this is a very carryable knife and a relatively small one. Considering some of the other field strip knives, namely the Homefront and, I forget the name of the other one, but it have mostly been on the larger side. This is a relatively compact one, and I appreciate that very much. Next thing, this guy is got very nice ergos in it. Ergonomics are great. It fits very well in the hand here. It's reasonably sized. The flip tab keeps you from going up onto the blade here, and even the clip disappears nicely into the hand. This is actually, I kind of first looked at this like, oh, that clip's going to be a problem, but turned out, at least for my hands, it really isn't. So ergonomically speaking, this is definitely a win. Next thing, this has actually a very nice action. This deploys very reliable. It's not necessarily the most satisfying thing ever. It's on Teflon, and so, the close isn't as amazing necessarily, but the thing is, it is a very reliable action. I can do this with absolutely no wrist at all, and I can, I get this knife open. I have not failed to flip on this guy, and that's actually a great thing. I really appreciate that even on a relatively light blade, relative to some, that is, that CRKT got the action right here, and so that's a beautiful thing. Then finally, on the good side here is that this is a very solid knife. Now, it would be very easy with the field strip technology that we'll talk about in a second here, for this guy to be a little bit rattly, a little bit unsolid feeling. But when you've got this guy in adjustment, because you can adjust this screw here to make everything perfectly tensioned, there is absolutely no play here, and it frankly just feels great. It's a very, very nice knife in the hand, and it just has a feeling of solidity that completely, well, it's unexpected given the fact you can take it apart so easily. So, at least to me, that's a beautiful thing, and that's great. So what's good here is that it is solid. It has a nice action, good ergos, nice size, very easy to carry, very lightweight. On the great side to me is the field strip technology. You might have noticed there's no disassembly video. That's because I'm about to do it, right? And that's kind of an important part of this knife. Take this knife apart. First, you click that lever over, and then all you need to do is rotate this screw in the back here, and then the knife is apart. I didn't use any tools for that at all, and that's a beautiful thing. Then on the other side here, we have ourselves a Teflon washer here, and there's a Teflon washer over here as well. The Teflon thing, I could do without, but nevertheless, the fact is I can now get in here and I can clean this guy out. I can remove this. There is absolutely no problem with that, and I am a big, big fan of that. And then to reassemble it, all you need to do is make sure your washers are in there, because at the very least, this washer over here is not captive. This one feels like it might be. But you make sure both your washers are in place. And then you just put this guy back together just by putting it together and then turning this screw a little bit here. Come on. Am I going this is counterintuitive because it's exactly the wrong direction relative to the rest of the world here. Let's see here. Why am I not doing this properly here? Okay, yeah, I am just going the wrong direction, and I was partly cross-threaded. Then all you need to do is pinch this guy down, and it helps, at least in my experience, to have the lock bar up, and then you twist it like so, and now the knife is back together. Again, there were zero tools involved. There was zero muss, zero fuss, and now it is back to a state where it is just where it was. There's no play, there's no adjustment or anything needed. It's just right where it was again. This is a beautiful thing. You know, you all know that I am a big fan of knife disassembly as a form of maintenance, that a good tool can be kept better, well, in shape when you're able to take it apart easily, and it just doesn't get any easier than that to take a knife apart. This is a very, very nice piece of technology. And given that you can do that just as easily in a freaking river, although you want to make sure you don't lose that washer there, it's a great idea, and it's great to see it implemented in a smaller knife like this. So, to me at least, what's great here is that field strip technology. It is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful thing. And actually, one other thing I want to highlight there, I was talking about this being exactly backwards. The screw, meaning that generally speaking, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey in the world, but actually you want it to be that way, because as you're flipping this guy, there's going to be a natural motion in this way, and you want that natural motion to tighten it rather than loosen it. So it is backwards by the standards of most pocket knives, but it is the correct orientation, so to speak, for the functional purpose here. But anyways, to me at least, that's what's great. Field strip technology is great, and I just want to see it more and more. There's some excellence there. On the bad side, one thing I already highlighted is that one of those washers is not captive. That's not a great thing, because if you're taking this guy apart in a river someplace, if you lose a washer, you're screwed. So I'd like to see captive phosphor bronze washers there, right? And I'm not a big fan of Teflon, generally speaking here. You can make the argument that because they run a little better without lubrication, but no, just do it right, guys. So at least to me, that's not great. Then, you know, there were other predictable things. I mean, it's a CRKT, so they're putting too much stuff on the blade here. I mean, okay, sure, you can put the model name, but then the designer, but then the patents, and then this number, which is, as far as I'm aware, not super meaningful to anybody but maybe CRKT. I'm just not impressed with that. I really wish that they put a lot less stuff on. And the one thing they didn't put on here is the blade steel, which, you know, okay, you don't want to advertise that. I get that, but still, guys, come on. You can put a little less stuff on the blade. It's a nice design. Why are you doing that to us? Next thing, this guy definitely is pocket packing a little bit. Not the end of the world, but it's a little bit sharp on the corners here. They've done a little chamfering, a little bit of rounding. That's nice, but it's pocket packing. Next thing, they didn't quite get the sharpening choil right. This needs to go out a little bit further, because you can see that there is actually a little area of unsharpened heel down at the bottom there, where it is not sharpened up until about this point, and even still. So they just needed to bring that sharpening choil out just a little bit further in order to fully catch that. So, you know, not the end of the world, but that's a thing. Next thing, this is ground a little bit on the thicker side. It's not the end of any particular worlds, but CRKT grinds are very seldom impressive. I'd like to see them thin out these edges a little bit more and make it a slightly better cutting sort of tool. So there's that. And then finally on the bad side, it's $80. Now look, okay, $80, I would have no problem paying for this knife if it weren't for the ugly portion of things. It is a great design. It's implemented actually mostly well. There's no particular problem there, but then we get to the ugly. But first, we need to wrap up the bad, which is that $80 is a little high for the product they end up delivering. It's got an unsharpened heel. It's ground a little bit thick. They missed the sharpening choil, which is related to that heel thing. It is pocket packing, and there is just too much crap written on the blade with Teflon washers that are a little bit loose. On the ugly front, unfortunately, the blade steel on this is pretty ugly. This is a 1.4116 steel. This is not a steel that's very commonly used, at least not named as such. And, you know, honestly, there aren't really strong analogs, but you can think about it as being in a class that's not dissimilar to 420HC or AUS6, maybe even AUS4, depending on who you want to talk to. The important thing is what they give to you on the website, and it's running at 55 to 57 hardness. That's not good. That's really just not, in the modern knife world, that's just not impressive. And, you know, of course, you know, looking at specs, it's like, okay, well, but how does it actually perform? And this is a case where I felt like I wanted to test that. So what I did is I walked up to a cardboard box. I have a lot of cardboard boxes in my life. I send a lot of stuff around. And I went at it and just started making cuts in this cardboard box, because a lot of people break down cardboard, right? That's a common thing. And it dulled substantially within about a minute of cutting into cardboard. Just making cuts like this, just slicing into the cardboard there. And at that point in time, it wasn't willing to cut paper. I mean, it was very easy to shop, and I just took it back over. I'm also testing a Spyderco gauntlet here. Just put it on that, and then a couple of passes, and I had it back up to shop, which is the nice thing about soft steels. They sharpen beautifully. But the thing is, no, that's just not impressive. There are so many modern steels that would do that same thing and just laugh, that when they do this, it's just not good. And the thing is, that could be okay, I guess, if you're selling a $20 or $30 knife. But no, for $80, no, they need to do better. And considering that other companies, especially Chinese companies, but even American, are doing things like D2, 14C28N, 12C27 even, at reasonable hardnesses for much lower prices, that steel ends up being a major third in this knife's punch bowl. It just feels like one area where somebody decided they were going to be a bit of a slacker and then just really hurt the knife as a functional tool. So, at least for me, the ugly thing is the blade steel here. It's whatever it is, it's run too damn soft, and as a result, it does have some pretty substantial performance deficit there, at least relative to a lot of modern budget knives, let alone $80 ones. Final conclusion. This one's a little tough, because at one level, it's a great knife. I really do actually substantially like this knife. It's very carryable. It's a good size, good ergonomics, good action, solid build, and I love the field strip thing. That is great, and, given I may be biased towards the field strip thing just because I love disassembly, and I think good maintenance is a element of a great tool, but it's a very nice knife at some level. It's got some annoyances. It's got a little pocket pecker on there. They missed the sharpening choil, thick edge, the price that could be fine, but then they made a really bad choice on steel. And I don't want to be a one-issue voter here. I don't want to be a steel snob necessarily. I am, but I don't want to be that. At the same time, though, I really would have vastly preferred this knife for $5 more in an upgraded steel. If it were the case, that if it is truly the case that this guy is priced as aggressively as it can be, and just going to a real steel would have cost them another $5, then pay the money. I mean, there is some bean counter out there, I am 100% sure, who views the extra $5 to $10 to put this in a real steel is like, oh my God, that's huge, and start screaming about market segments or something, and maybe for some people that is a bridge too far. The thing is, $80, at least in my experience, and given this, I'm not in the industry, but $80 is starting to get above the price point at which the people who say, I don't care about steel, as long as it cuts, that's kind of above their price range by and large. So many companies are doing a lot of stuff under the $80 line that I don't know that they're going to come up here. I mean, the blister pack people might not be able to tell, but I think that's a different price range. I think that this knife is going to catch the eye of knife enthusiasts more likely than anything. Folks who are like, oh, Ken Onion, great. Oh, home for our field strip technology, great. And the thing is, if you're looking at collectors, if you're looking at enthusiasts, I think that choosing a steel and running it at a hardness that is at the lower end of low is just not a good call if you're trying to charge that much. This really feels like a case where somebody decided, you know what, they cheaped themselves out of something amazing here. It's sort of like somebody saying, God, I need to lose weight. Well, I'll just cut off this arm. Like, no, that's not how you do it. And so I don't know where to land on this. This is a great design. It's a great idea. And I don't want to be a one-issue voter, but I feel like the place they chose to cheap out on was the most important part of a knife, right? I mean, you can have the very best handle in the world, but if it's not a good steel, if it's not a steel that performs really well in everyday contexts, it's a problem. This knife could have been a gem in a good steel. It's hard for me to tell you just how much I like this knife in a lot of ways. It might not have come off of that way, but I really do. I think it's a really excellent choice for everyday carry, but they cut off the damn arm to lose some weight. And so this ends up feeling like a very ugly near miss. And my final conclusion on this guy, I guess, is just that, there are two types of things. I mean, if you truly do not care about the steel, you do not care about the cutting performance, you use your knife one time a day to open an envelope, then you know what? This is going to last you a number of days before you need to resharp that. Or if you really love sharpening, if you're a person who's just like, yeah, I like, then okay, great. This will be a great knife for you. But honestly, I think everybody else should probably hang back and hope that down the road they lock the relevant bean counter out of the building for a day or two and do this knife justice and bring that steel, bring that hardness up to a more acceptable standard, frankly. Or maybe that some retailer asks for a second model to be made in a reasonable steel, like hopefully not a limited sprint, but hopefully they just say, guys, try again, and they try again, and that would be great. Or maybe they do a high-end version down the road, like they did to the Homefront, where they do this in, you could even just do it in aluminum with a freaking blade worth of damn, and it'd be great. I mean, I hope, I dream that, CRKT's willingness to do this kind of thing for some of their knives will go on to other ones, because I think this is a great knife. It's got a lot of good things going for it, and there's a lot of potential here. But unfortunately, as I said many times, I think this is an absolutely great knife, but I just wish it had been done a little bit better. And that's what keeps this guy from being a gem. So hopefully V2 is going to be amazing, or hopefully the high-end version will be amazing, or hopefully they'll just fix it. But for the moment, unfortunately, I think there's some slacker at work, and that's causing them some trouble. So anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.